52 faces, 52 American lives, suddenly ripped from the safety of their embassy in Tehran, Iran. It was November 4th, 1979, a day that would forever sear itself into the American consciousness. Student militants, fueled by revolutionary fervor and the command of Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, stormed the U.S. diplomatic compound. They took everyone inside, holding them captive. Just like that, America was plunged into a nightmare. This was no ordinary crisis. This was a national trauma playing out in real time on television screens across the country. Every night, the news anchors would update the grim tally. Day 1, Day 100, Day 250. The number 52 became a haunting drumbeat, a constant reminder of the men and women held hostage, thousands of miles away, their fate uncertain. Yellow ribbons, symbols of hope and remembrance, began to appear on trees and lampposts, a silent, desperate plea for their return. America waited and waited. For President Jimmy Carter, the crisis became a relentless, suffocating burden. It was a weight that settled on his shoulders, crushing his every move. Every decision, every public statement, every diplomatic maneuver was scrutinized, analyzed, and often criticized. He tried everything: negotiations, sanctions, even a daring, secret military rescue mission, Operation Eagle Claw, in April 1980. That mission ended in disaster. 8 American servicemen lost in the Iranian desert, the hostages no closer to freedom. The public's hope, already fragile, shattered. Carter looked tired, burdened, and increasingly helpless. The crisis didn't just overshadow his presidency, it consumed it. It gnawed at the fabric of the nation. And with the 1980 presidential election looming, this profound national humiliation became the defining issue, a heavy anchor dragging down Carter's re-election chances. He was perceived as weak, unable to project American power, unable to bring the hostages home. The stakes for him, personally and politically, could not have been higher. His entire political future hinged on 52 lives held captive in a distant land. Meanwhile, out in California, a different story was unfolding. Ronald Reagan, the charismatic former governor and surging Republican challenger, watched from the wings. His campaign offered a stark contrast to Carter's perceived weakness. Reagan spoke of American strength, of restoring national pride, of a decisive hand that would never tolerate such an affront. His message resonated with a frustrated, anxious electorate. The polls began to shift dramatically. The longer the hostages remained captive, the more Ronald Reagan's star rose. The date of the presidential election, November 4th, 1980, loomed large. It was exactly 1 year to the day since the embassy takeover. The irony was brutal. For Carter, a last-minute release of the hostages, an October surprise, could be his only salvation, a miracle that might swing the election his way. For Reagan, a release before the election could derail his momentum, giving Carter a much-needed boost. The pressure, the desperation for a political victory, or to avert a devastating loss, reached a fever pitch. Could the immense political stakes lead to unthinkable maneuvers behind the scenes? Could the desperation to win, or to prevent the other side from winning, twist the course of nations? Whispers began to circulate, hushed theories about secret dealings, back-channel communications. What if, some wondered, the crisis was not just a diplomatic standoff, but a political chess game, with 52 human pawns? What hidden pressures were truly at play in those frantic final weeks before Election Day? The questions hung in the air, unanswered, fueling suspicion and intrigue. Was it just a coincidence that the hostages remained captive through the election, only to be released moments after Ronald Reagan took the oath of office? Or was something more sinister at work, a clandestine plot that altered the course of history? The truth, it was alleged, lay buried in the shadows of international politics, a secret deal that would be debated for decades to come. But who would dare to make such a deal? And with whom? The year was 1980. America was on edge. 44 American hostages held captive in Tehran for over a year hung like a dark cloud over the nation. Their fate dominated headlines. It shadowed every political debate. President Jimmy Carter, desperate for their release, saw his re-election hopes fading fast. His opponent, Ronald Reagan, promised a fresh start, a stronger America. But as the election drew closer, as the clock ticked down to November 4th, a chilling whisper began to travel through the backrooms of Washington. a whisper of something far darker, far more dangerous than mere political maneuvering. This wasn't just about winning an election. This was about power. It was about a shocking, almost unbelievable allegation, a secret deal. A deal struck in the shadows, far from public view. A deal that would forever be known as the October surprise. The whispers grew louder. They pointed to a name, William Casey, a veteran of intelligence, a man of fierce loyalty to Ronald Reagan and the future head of the CIA. In 1980, Casey was Reagan's campaign manager, a strategist known for his ruthless effectiveness. The story went like this. Casey, along with other key figures in the Reagan campaign, allegedly flew to Paris. Not for a vacation, not for official diplomatic talks, but for a series of clandestine meetings. Meetings with representatives of the very same Iranian regime holding American citizens hostage. Imagine the scene. Paris, a city of romance, now a backdrop for a potential act of betrayal. The exact dates are debated, shrouded in conflicting testimonies. But the core claim remains: secret encounters, possibly in late September, definitely in October 1980, perhaps on October 19th and 20th. These weren't casual chats. These were negotiations. High-stakes discussions with life-and-death consequences. The alleged quid pro quo? Simple, brutal, and utterly shocking. The Reagan campaign, it was claimed, offered the Iranians a future promise. Once Reagan was in the White House, Iran would receive arms, weapons they desperately needed for their ongoing war with Iraq. In return, the Iranians would do one thing: keep the American hostages, keep them mocked away, keep them out of President Carter's grasp until star after star the November election. A delay? Just a few weeks. Enough time to ensure Carter's defeat. Enough time to guarantee Reagan's victory. Think about that for a moment. A deal to prolong the agony of American families. A deal to use human lives as political pawns. Could powerful men truly orchestrate such a brazen plot? A scheme that, if proven, would be nothing short of treason. This wasn't just dirty politics. This was a dangerous game played on the international stage, with the lives of 52 Americans hanging in the balance. The idea itself feels like something out of a spy thriller. Secret agents, covert flights, whispered promises in dimly lit hotel rooms. But this wasn't fiction. This was the real world. And the stakes couldn't have been higher. If these meetings truly happened, if this deal was truly struck, it meant the Reagan campaign deliberately undermined the sitting president. They sabotaged his efforts to bring Americans home. They extended their suffering for political gain. It's a staggering accusation. It challenges everything we think we know about American democracy. Could men driven by ambition really cross such a line? Could they gamble with national honor and human lives? The allegations didn't just vanish. They persisted. They festered. Over the years, a chorus of voices emerged. Intelligence agents, former Iranian officials, arms dealers, even some journalists. They claimed to have witnessed parts of the plot, to have heard the details, to have been involved in the periphery. But solid, undeniable proof? That remained elusive. No smoking gun, no signed document, just a tangled web of circumstantial evidence, hushed confessions, and convenient memory lapses. The story was always just out of reach. Always just beyond definitive confirmation. It became a ghost story for American politics, told and retold, always with new details, always with new doubts. Critics scoffed. They called it a wild conspiracy theory, a desperate attempt by Carter loyalists to rewrite history. They pointed out the logistical nightmares of such a plot, the sheer number of people who would have to be involved, and the impossibility of keeping such a secret for so long. They argued that the Iranians had their own reasons for holding the hostages, reasons that had nothing to do with helping an American presidential candidate. And William Casey? He vehemently denied it all, right up until his death. Yet, the allegations refused to die. They sparked congressional investigations years later. House and Senate task forces were assembled. They interviewed hundreds of witnesses. They sifted through thousands of documents. Their findings were complex, often contradictory. They found no conclusive evidence of a Reagan campaign deal, no smoking gun that could definitively prove the October surprise. But they also couldn't entirely dismiss the possibility. The shadows remained. The questions lingered. The very existence of such an allegation, regardless of its ultimate proof, casts a long, dark shadow. It forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about the lengths to which political ambition can push individuals. It makes us wonder about the hidden currents that truly shape history, beneath the official narratives. What if the election of 1980, the very future of America, was decided not just by votes and speeches, but by a secret pact forged in a foreign capital? The hostages were eventually released, but the timing of that release, and the bizarre circumstances surrounding it, only added fuel to the fire. It kept the October surprise alive, a tantalizing mystery that refused to be buried. What really happened in those final, frantic days before Ronald Reagan took the oath of office? And what was the true cost of their freedom? The air in America crackled with tension. It was 1980. 52 American hostages languished in Iran, held captive for over a year. The nation watched, desperate, as President Jimmy Carter's efforts to free them stalled. Then the unthinkable happened. Whispers began, growing into a roar. A secret deal, a dark bargain. Allegations surged that Ronald Reagan's campaign team, desperate to win the White House, had struck a clandestine agreement with Iran. The promise: delay the hostages' release until after the election. In return, Iran would receive arms. A shocking claim, a betrayal of the highest order. The world held its breath. The hostages were finally released on January 20th, 1981, literally minutes after Ronald Reagan took the oath of office. The timing wasn't just suspicious, it was eerily precise. It screamed for answers. Did Reagan's team truly play such a dangerous game with American lives for political gain? Or was it merely a cruel twist of fate, a coincidence too painful to accept? Decades of investigations followed, a relentless hunt for the truth. Congressional committees, journalists, and historians dug deep, sifting through mountains of documents, chasing down shadowy figures, and interviewing hundreds of witnesses. The task was monumental. The stakes incredibly high. This wasn't just a political scandal, it was a potential act of treason. The first major wave of inquiry crashed in the early 1990s. The House of Representatives formed a special task force, led by Congressman Lee Hamilton. They launched a massive undertaking. Their mission: to finally put the October surprise allegations to rest, one way or another. Simultaneously, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee conducted its own parallel investigation. These weren't quick glances, they were deep dives. Investigators meticulously scrutinized flight manifests, attempting to track alleged secret trips by prominent Republicans to Europe, particularly Paris, in the fall of 1980. They pored over thousands of intelligence reports, CIA cables, and FBI files, searching for any hint of clandestine meetings or communications between Reagan's campaign and Iranian officials. They interviewed former Iranian officials, intelligence operatives, and arms dealers, many of whom claimed direct knowledge or involvement in a secret deal. One name that frequently surfaced was Abolhassan Banassad, Iran's first post-revolution president. He claimed to possess intimate knowledge of the negotiations, insisting that Reagan's people had indeed met with Iranian representatives. Another key figure was Jamshid Hashemi, an Iranian arms dealer with alleged ties to both sides. He described detailed meetings in Madrid and Paris, where a deal was supposedly hammered out. His testimony painted a vivid picture of high-stakes diplomacy, conducted in secret, far from the public eye. But the path to truth was strewn with obstacles. Many of the alleged witnesses had checkered pasts. Some were known fabricators. Others had clear financial motives, hoping to sell their stories for profit. Their accounts often conflicted, creating a confusing tapestry of claims and counterclaims. Key figures vehemently denied any involvement. George H.W. Bush, then Reagan's running mate and later president, flatly dismissed the allegations as absurd. William Casey, Reagan's campaign manager and later CIA director, who was central to many of the accusations, had passed away, taking his secrets with him. After 2 years of intense investigation, the official inquiries reached their conclusions. In January 1993, the House Task Force on the October Surprise released its findings. The verdict landed with a thud. Insufficient credible evidence. Not a definitive no, but a not proven. The Senate committee reached a similar conclusion. They found no smoking gun, no irrefutable document, no unimpeachable witness that could definitively prove a deal had occurred. The absence of evidence, they argued, could not be taken as evidence of absence. But it was enough to close the official books. Yet for many, the official pronouncements felt hollow. The timing of the hostages' release remained the most stubborn, unsettling piece of the puzzle. On January 20th, 1981, at precisely 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Ronald Reagan took the oath of office as the 40th President of the United States. Moments later, the news flashed across television screens. The hostages were free. Their planes lifted off from Tehran, literally as Reagan finished his inaugural address. President Carter, who had worked tirelessly for their release, flew to Wiesbaden, Germany, to greet them, a bittersweet end to his presidency. The contrast was stark. It screamed political theater. Did investigators truly uncover every stone? Or were powerful forces protecting a dark secret, a truth too damaging to ever see the light of day? The nature of covert operations means they are designed to leave no trace. Deals are made in whispers, agreements sealed with handshakes, not signed contracts. Key players disappear. Memories fade or conveniently alter. What if the most crucial pieces of evidence were simply too well hidden, too expertly destroyed, or too deeply buried in the minds of those who would never confess? The official reports acknowledge the persistent rumors, but dismiss them as unsubstantiated. But what about the information that was purposefully overlooked? What about the intelligence reports that never made it to the public eye, or those that were heavily redacted? The questions lingered, refusing to be silenced. The October surprise remains a ghost in America's political machine, a chilling reminder of how far some might go to seize power. The official verdict may have been insufficient credible evidence, but the shadow of doubt still stretches long, begging for a final ray of light. Could the truth still be out there, buried somewhere in the archives, waiting to be unearthed? For 444 agonizing days, America held its breath. 52 of its own, held captive in Tehran, Iran. Each sunrise, each sunset, a brutal reminder of national helplessness. Then a sudden dramatic turn. On January 20th, 1981, the very moment Ronald Reagan raised his right hand to take the oath of office as the 40th President of the United States, those 52 Americans were finally released, their plane lifting off Iranian soil just minutes after Reagan's inaugural address concluded. A moment of triumph, yes, but for many it was also a moment shrouded in a chilling question. A question that has echoed through the decades, refusing to be silenced. Was this timing a coincidence, or was it something far more sinister? This is the enduring mystery of the October surprise. The allegation is stark, cold, and utterly devastating, that Ronald Reagan's presidential campaign, desperate to prevent an October surprise hostage release that could swing the November 4, 1980 election in Jimmy Carter's favor, struck a secret deal with Iran. The alleged bargain? Delay the hostages' freedom until star after star the election. In return, a Reagan administration would offer better terms, perhaps even weapons, once in power. Think about that for a moment. American citizens, languishing in captivity, potentially used as pawns in a high-stakes political game. Jimmy Carter's presidency had been consumed by the crisis. A release in the weeks leading up to the election could have been his saving grace, a powerful boost to his re-election chances. But the release never came. Instead, Reagan swept to victory in a landslide, and the hostages walked free the instant he became president. The timing felt too perfect for some, too cruel for others. The whispers began almost immediately. They grew louder over the years, fueled by journalists, former intelligence officials, and even some foreign leaders. They pointed to alleged secret meetings, shadowy figures, and suspicious movements. William Casey, Reagan's campaign manager and later CIA director, became a central figure in many of these accounts. Did he or others close to the campaign truly travel to Paris, Madrid, or other European cities to meet with Iranian intermediaries? Did they promise weapons in exchange for delaying the hostages' freedom? In the early 1990s, the controversy reached a fever pitch. Congress launched not one but two major investigations. The Senate Foreign Relations Committee and the House Task Force on the October surprise spent years digging. They interviewed hundreds of witnesses, reviewed thousands of documents. Their conclusions, issued in 1992 and 1993, were clear. there was no credible evidence to support the core allegations. No credible evidence of a secret deal. No credible evidence of Reagan campaign officials meeting with Iranians to delay the release. The official story then was that the October surprise was a myth, a conspiracy theory, case closed, but for many, those findings fell hollow. They didn't erase the nagging doubts. They didn't explain away the persistent testimonies of those who claimed to have witnessed clandestine meetings or heard direct confessions. Critics argued the investigations were incomplete, hampered by a lack of cooperation from foreign governments, and perhaps even a reluctance to uncover a truth that could shake the foundations of American politics. So, the October surprise persists. It's a chilling what-if in American history, a ghost that haunts the political landscape, refusing to be exorcised. Despite those official denials, the narrative of political ambition overriding national interest refuses to die. Why? Because the very idea touches upon our deepest fears about power. It asks us to confront a horrifying possibility, that the pursuit of victory can blind leaders to their moral obligations, that the lives of innocent Americans could be sacrificed at the altar of political gain. What does this unresolved mystery tell us about power's corrupting influence? It suggests that the stakes of an election can be so high, the desire for victory so overwhelming that even the most fundamental principles might be compromised. It speaks to the shadows where realpolitik meets backroom deals, where national security can become entangled with partisan maneuvering. It paints a picture of a system vulnerable to manipulation, where the truth can be buried not just by lies, but by silence, by convenient memory lapses, and by the passage of time. Consider the implications. If the allegations are true, then not only were American hostages used as political bargaining chips, but the American public was deliberately deceived about the true nature of their freedom. It would mean a fundamental betrayal of trust, a stain on the very fabric of our democracy. It would mean that a presidential campaign engaged in what amounts to treason, undermining the sitting president's efforts to free American citizens. The gravity of such an act is almost too immense to comprehend. Will the full truth ever surface? Or is it forever lost in the shadows of 1980s political maneuvering? Decades have passed. Many of the key figures involved, from both sides of the political spectrum and from Iran, have passed away. Memories fade, documents remain classified, or perhaps were never officially recorded. The trail grows colder with each passing year, making definitive proof, either for or against the allegations, increasingly difficult to find. Yet, the questions remain. The October surprise serves as a perpetual reminder that in the murky world of high-stakes politics, not everything is as it seems. It's a testament to the idea that some wounds, even if unproven, leave an indelible scar, a scar of doubt, a scar of suspicion, etched onto our collective memory. It forces us to ask tough questions about the lengths to which some will go to win, and about the cost of power. The mystery endures, a dark cloud over a pivotal moment in American history. But what if there were other players, other motives, other secrets still hidden in plain sight? What if the story goes even deeper than we imagine? Subscribe to Study Z for more contents like these.